Hello and welcome along to the Matchbook Betting Exchange Horse Racing Podcast. It's Daniel Hussey, as you can probably tell, standing in for our regular host, Tom Stanley. I'm delighted to welcome, firstly, the Daily Mail's Sam Turner and a regular contributor to the podcast. Sam, welcome back to the podcast. How are we?
Cheers, Dan. Yeah, good to be back with you. And you're the only man who could fill the void of Tom Stanley's hair as well. So
I love that. He never said a word about the hair joke that was coming there pre-recording, and then as soon as we go live, he's straight there. But we're delighted to welcome, myself and Sam are delighted to welcome super sub standing in for Dominic King last minute at the BBC Radio 5 Lives, Charlie Poste. Charlie, welcome along to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Dan. Thanks for having me on. As in, just a late substitution, so hopefully I can sort of fill the void to a degree.
Absolutely. And tell the listeners, for those that can't see it, whereabouts are you at the moment?
So this is pretty rustic, and like I said to you, if you ever have me back on again, I promise, one, to be even more prepared, and two, to have a better setup. I'm sat in Gina Andrews is the very much leading amateur jockey's BMW, sat outside the Tats Cheltenham sales complex, and there's a sale going on in front of me, horses being led up and down, of about 70 of hopefully some of the leading sort of young horse prospects that might be National Hunt stars of the future. And my wife Francesca and I are selling two horses that they passed their vettings this morning. They sell tomorrow from 1 o'clock onwards. So there's loads of agents and trainers here looking them over and trying to sort of shortlist of the ones that they like and don't like.
Well, if you ever want a proper insight to the race and the game, there it is, Charlie. But listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And listen, if you tip a few winners, by all means, you'll be back on the podcast, no issue at all. For those that are watching, we're just going to touch on Sandown Friday because it's been difficult to kind of choose races this week with the ITV Friday action. So we picked the four biggest races from the flat there. We're going to look at the Jumps finale on Sandown Saturday and then a couple of the other races on the ITV card. If you are watching us on YouTube, do get involved in the live chat and comments as well. Do give us a thumbs up. And in all the bet selections will be available on insights.matchbook.com. Normally a couple hours post recording as well. So if you miss any of the guys' selections, they'll be all written out on insights.matchbook.com. Cool. We'll get started. We're going to go to the first race, which is the 150 at Sandown, the Esher Cup. Take a look at the betting currently on matchbook.com. We've got Blue Trail, the favourite at 3.75. Fine available at 7.0. Ring of Barra 7.0. Almamar at 8.0. And 10.0 and bigger the rest. We'll go to you, Sam, on this one first of all. Who do you like?
Well, really intriguing race, really, with a lot of sort of all-weather form on show, really, from some high-profile yards. So it's difficult to sort of evaluate at this stage of the season who's the most forward. So do you take race fitness, courtesy of the all-weather runs, or do you take the horses that perhaps further down the line might just be in advance of their handicap marks and they might well go on to prove that they could be better than the horses that have had a run so far at this stage of the season. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of a chance with Eve Johnson Houghton's horse here. It could be about 17.0. It might be the outside of the whole bunch. Eve's only run two horses in this race in the last 10 years. I think she won it with What About Carlo. She's also had a placed horse. I just like the profile of this lad. He's quite, I think he was learning on the job last year. He was quite green, quite backward, quite raw. But there were signs in that Newmarket performance at the back end of last year that he's slowly starting to get to grips with what's required. I like the fact that he's been targeted at this race in a race which Eve has obviously pinpointed before. And I think he's worth taking a chance in a race where, you know, a number of these have got a similar sort of form line, the likes of Blue Trail and Fine. They're all mixed up together in that Chelmsford run. So I'll just think outside the box a little bit and hopefully a win and place bet on Nivellari will yield a little bit of a return.
Yeah, for you, Charlie, you like Almamar in this one?
Yeah, that's correct, Dan. I mean, look, again, I echo Sam's sentiments. A lot of early season form or weather form. I mean, obviously, Charlie Appleby of Blue Trail, who's carrying all before him as the favourite here. I mean, Fine actually finished in front of him on their last run at Chelmsford. I don't see a huge reason why the tables should be turned. So, yeah, again, Andrew Bolden is a bloke that's on fire at the moment. And I came down with Almamar, obviously ran in Doha, ran okay there and returned to, you know, the UK action. I just was going with a trainer in form, you know, that I think is sort of carrying all for him at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add another spanner into the mix, or another runner into the mix, and Ring of Barra is the one I'd probably come down on here. Currently around the 7.0. I think he's very solid here in terms of the win, particularly in the place market side of things. Obviously, that run behind Modern Games, he was on the wrong side of the stands there. They finished in the bottom two, but I know he's the top rated here, but I do think he can run really well. And of all the horses there, I do think he's the most solid if you are playing potentially in the place market there. So nice easy start from the guys. We've gone with 3 different selections there, and we'll move on to the 225 at Sandown, where I promise there is a small bit more agreement as we go through the cards here. Actually, there's full agreement here, not to give away the selections too much here, but obviously obviously Mustard F is the 1.72 favourite. Fox's Tail is 3.5, and Walacano is 5.0. Sam, obviously a 3-runner race here. You like the favourite here. You think he's pretty solid?
Yeah, a bit disappointing for a nice Group 3 early season that we have only got the 3 runners here. Disappointing field size. Not disappointing in quality, because I think Mostadaf could be a very good horse this year. I think he's unbeaten in a couple of runs at Sandown, so the track clearly suits him well. He wound up with a good win in the Darley Stakes at the back end of last year over 9 furlongs at Newmarket. I think if you read John Gosden's comments about him, he always felt that he was going to be a much better horse, basically as a 4-year-old, and probably over a distance of ground like a mile and a quarter. Well, I'm not saying this is sort of an eclipse type audition, but he's going to need to be winning this off 114 if those sort of races are going to be within his remit this year. And no reason why they shouldn't be. He's obviously got a great record right-handed, goes well at Sandown, very versatile ground-wise, and hopefully he'll progress this year. The only sort of proviso is that 1 or 2 of John Gosden's horses are just taking time to sort of hit peak form this year. I think a few of his 3-year-olds have probably just looked as though they need the run. Hopefully that's not the case with this lad, especially as we're being asked to take odds on about him.
Yeah, on your side of things, Charlie, is that a small bit of a worry the John Gosden thing that there's Sam touched on there? Oh, we seem to have lost Charlie on that front. But yeah, just a little bit more on that side. I guess it is a slight bit of a worry. You can see the RTF percentage on Racing Post there is a little bit less than ideal at this time of year, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be running in a 3-runner race, which could be a tactical affair as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fox's Tails probably lead them a merry dance here under David Probert. Looks to be a race that they've sort of targeted a good starting point for him as well. He acquitted him quite well in a couple of small field Group 3s last year, towards the autumn of last year. So I wouldn't have thought he'd be lacking for much fitness either, Fox's Tails. But it's a 3-runner race. It's an intriguing affair. But I think if Mostadef is anywhere near straight here, I think the 172 is a very fair trading trading price if you want to go that way, because he's a kind of horse that's going to travel very well through a race. He's got a lot of latent speed, and hopefully he'll cope with the slightly faster ground that he's encountered for a while.
Yeah, well, before we move on to the next race there, we've got Charlie back with us there. We were just speaking there with the John Gosden form, worry a small bit, not that they've been completely out of form, but a bit of a slow start.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is a concern, but I think with a class horse like this, it's less of a factor to me. And again, we're dealing with 2 other rivals that also we haven't seen this time round. I heard before I got cut off Sam saying about that he's a son of Frankel. Frankel is getting progeny that really excel going up in trip, and this lad stepping up to a mile and a quarter. I struggle to see any negatives for this horse in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. So full agreement on the 225. We move on to the 3 o'clock in Sandown, where I'm looking forward to the battle between Sam and Charlie here at the top of the market on alcohol free here. But I don't want to give the game away too much. Alcohol free is the 1.57 hot favourite here. Must have saw back there. I've been practicing that all day. 5.0. Sunray Major is 7.0. Obviously, the practice didn't go too well. Lights on 15.0, and it's 17.0 and bigger the rest. We'll go to you, Charlie, for this one. You kind of like alcohol free here to do the business.
I do. I mean, look, I'd be very interested to know Sam's reasons against her, and maybe he can shed some light on that. But, she was a high-class filly last year. She actually receives weight off Mustasa Beck. Is that about right, lads? I don't know. And at the ratings and the weight, I mean, she is very much, weighted to beat this rival. Is it a concern that she hasn't had a run this season? Potentially. And I also see that they're going for the first time Hood, which sometimes can give cause for concern, but I shouldn't keep saying this horse's name. Mutasa Beck,
Charlie Hill's 4-year-old.
Yeah, it was the 4-year-old of Charlie Hills. This was very impressive at first, and I can see that he's a potential improver. Charlie Hills is going well as well, but I just came down with the class feeling about Alcohol Free, who's a filly that I loved all through last season, and she did win first time out last year as well in the Fred Darling.
Yeah, and on the alcohol-free price, it probably put me off just the 1.57. What was willing to take her on there, Sam. Is that the same reasoning for you? Or is there other things aside from the price?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. It's more of a value play, really. The hood goes on for the first time, which sort of suggests that perhaps she's been energetic enough at home leading into this race. This will be a stepping stone for her as well, really, onto better things. Not sure whether they're thinking of the Lockinge, but then there'll be Royal Ascot, and there'll certainly be bigger targets afoot. Not to decry this race. It's a nice race in its own right, Group 2, and she's only got 5 rivals, and she's got tons in hand on official ratings. But the price, the hood, first time up against a race-fit rival as well. And let's not forget that Mutasabek was a horse that was touted for the Guineas last year. He won that small field race at Newmarket in the early season, the trial, bolted up on that occasion. He's stretching out to a mile here, which he's yet to really, truly confirm to me that that's his optimum trip, because he shows plenty of pace. And he beat a horse of Andrew Balding's up at Thirst quite readily in Symbolise. Now, that gives the Balding team a great line for alcohol-free. They probably think they're going to dot all over Mutasabek. But I just thought at 5.0, it was a chance worth taking. I couldn't see anything else really in the field that I'd want to be with. Maybe Sunray Major, who does go well fresh, but Mutasabek, I think he's a class horse, and he looks as though he's got his career back on track as well now.
Yeah, so ancient difference of opinion there, and we've got pretty similar opinions on the next race there. We'll take a look at the betting, which is the 3:35 of Sandown on Friday, the Classic Trial. Gold Spurs is your current Gold Spur, is 2.37. River Thames is 4.5. Cash is 6.5. Fantastic 9.0. Frank Strauss 11.0 and 12.0 and bigger the rest. We're going to use Sam on this one. You really like the favourite here?
Yeah, it's rather unoriginal, unfortunately, but having spent the last week or 10 days watching Will Buick and Charlie Appleby just mop up every trial going, and virtually every other race besides as well. I'm sure they even won one at Ludlow on Wednesday afternoon. Might have bypassed me, but they're in great nick. That's the point I'm trying to say and labouring to make. And I really like Goldspur. I mean, he was tremendously impressive at Sandown, beating Wolseley first time up last year. He also ran very well at Newmarket. He just sneaked home in that mile and a quarter Group 3. And the performance in the Criterium de Saint-Cloud has been boosted by a number of horses in behind and in front of him that have come out and enhanced the form as well. So he's proven around the track. He's from a team in top form. He won't mind what the ground is, and he stays very well. I think he's got a major chance of winning this and going on to better things as the summer progresses.
Yeah, it's probably a no bet for me on that end, Charlie, but you're in agreement with Sam here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, but I'm probably alongside you a little bit, Dan, as well, in that there could be something within this field that might come out of the woodwork and throw its hat into the ring to be a top class performer. I mean, I'm just looking down at Franz Strauss, of Gosden's. If we take the form with Eden, who was possibly unlucky at Newcastle, who then was very impressive in the field and the other day. So this is a race that's worth watching with the future in mind. But just on present form of what we know, with Group 1 form on the table, I just thought Goldspur, factoring in William Buick, Charlie Appleby, as Sam has already said, he's just a very solid one in this field. But moving forward through the rest of the year, there might be something to keep a note of that could improve beyond him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, it'll be a little bit a watching brief, but as I said, Sam quite likes Goldspur in that one. We're going to move on to Friday best lays, and Sam, you kind of, despite listening to Charlie's great case on alcohol free a couple of moments ago, you're gonna lay him at around the 1.57, which he's currently at.
Yeah, it's just a price play, really, Daniel. There's just one or two little question marks, and I don't like laying horses at big prices. And she's first time off the shelf. She's wearing the hood for the first time, and she's more than likely going to have bigger targets further down the line. She might win this 80% fit, quite conceivably. She's got enough in hand to do that, but I've got to lay something, so it might as well be her at a short price.
Yeah, I'm happy to row in with that one, to be honest with you, Sam. Charlie, any lays that stood out for you on the Friday? It's tough with the 4 races.
Not a lay for me, Dan. I mean, I just think the favourites are all pretty strong. And if you ask me for best bet, I mean, again, he's no price, but Mostadef, I think, is rock solid.
Yeah, for best bets, normally, because I'm only in doing these once every few weeks when Tom's away, so I want to kind of land a home run here. So Ring a Bar for me is the win and place bet. I think slightly unexposed at the 8, given that ran over 7 and then 7.5. So could eke out a little bit more improvement first run of the year. So win and place bet for me in the 150 in Sandown. Sam, for you, your best bet on the card?
Yeah, I've forgotten what I put. I don't know whether I have done. I really like Al Kareem in the last race. I was very taken with him at Nottingham last time. I know he faces a horse of Marco Botti's, but this race and this race course can often suit those that like to bowl along in front. And if he gets unmithered at the head of a field, I think he might be a hard horse to overhaul.
Great stuff. We'll move on. We switch codes. We're going to go predominantly to the National Hunt and then back to the 2 flat races. So it's just the 6 races live on ITV this Saturday. I think that's to give a bit of time for the presentation to Brian Hughes, etc. But before we get to all that, we'll take a look at the latest sign-up offer available on Matchbook.com at the moment. So a lot of good bets there. There's even bigger prizes to come in the Saturday. So if you are looking to set up a Matchbook account, there's a £30 welcome offer we're running currently, which has been quite popular in recent weeks. That's money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. So it's a risk-free bet, essentially. It's £30 welcome offer. All you have to do is type in the bonus code INSIGHTS30. That's INSIGHTS30. Obviously, insights for insights.matchbook.com, and full terms and conditions are available on insights.matchbook.com. So it's £30 welcome offer. Money back as a free bet. Don't put it on my best bet. Put it on maybe a double with Charlie and Sam's, perhaps. 150 in Sandown. We'll move on to Saturday. Before we take a look at the betting, I'll go to you just on this one, Sam. Paul Nicholls, in terms of the whole meeting, he obviously targets this, and given the field sizes, he's probably worked out, and looking at declarations, he's really it's almost paid off before the horses run here.
Yeah, obviously he's got so much ammunition that he can have a good go at this meeting. It's always been a meeting that he really loves to do well at, usually because he's getting crowned as champion trainer. So it's a nice way for him to sign off the season. Obviously as well, it's a nice way to sign off for Harry Derham, who's been his assistant for the last 6 years as well. So he's going on to pastures new. So it's very much a changing of the guard really at Paul Nicholls' yard in the next sort of week or so. And all power to him. He doesn't seem to have had a particularly successful year. I think he'd probably say that in his own right, really. You know, the 4 to 6 weeks that he had where the horses were running very poorly after their flu jabs, they couldn't really get to the bottom of them. They've come out the other side, but I don't think Paul's been particularly happy with the form of the horses and the consistency of them all year, but he's still going to end up winning the Trainers' Championship by 300 odd grand. Not bad, is it?
Yeah, there was a brief moment when Willie Mullins was kind of half tempted to go for it, but I just think there's too much to do without the Grand National. Charlie, different question to you just before we move on Brian Hughes. I'd love to get your take on, obviously he's kind of caused a bit of a storm on Twitter. I just think to go out and win 200 for 200 winners speaks volumes of the man, and I think people are maybe losing a little bit in the lack of grade races. But for you, what's your kind of thoughts on Brian Hughes over the course of the season?
Brilliant rider, and this year he's been outstanding. I mean, with the greatest respect, I mean, I think as a species now, we just love to criticize or pull people apart for anything. You know, the guy's job is to ride winners. You can see from his competitive desire, he's no inclination to want to come down to Cheltenham to ride a load of 33 to 1 shots and make the numbers up. And I have the greatest admiration for it. And when you look at the 200 winner club, you know, Peter Scudamore, Richard Johnson, Tony McCoy, I think it actually shows the magnitude of this achievement, and it's something really that Brian Hughes should be getting lauded for. And like I say, pulling him apart because he hasn't ridden that many Grade 1 winners, well, unfortunately he's based in the north of England, and that makes it even harder. And why he's not used in more circumstances by Southern trainers in those sort of races is maybe the question, because that's got nothing to do with Brian Hughes. It's people really not waking up and seeing how good he is, because he's, like I say, I think of the current crop of jump jockeys in Britain, I've got a great mate in Harry Skelton who might be, but I think Brian Hughes is probably the best person out there. I think he's a fantastic operator, and like I say, what he's done this season is well, like it's going to put him in a very select club, isn't it?
Absolutely. Charlie, I want to just get you to drop out for a second just with the audio there towards the end of that. Yeah. Sam, we'll just take a look at the betting and get Charlie's thoughts in a second on the 150 in Sandown. So Napper's Hill is 4.0 favourite. Headlaw is 5.5. Whiz Kid is 7.5. Dr. Pronounce is 8.5. Dibble Decker is 9.0 and Bigger the rest. Who do you like in this race? Yeah,
and just as we go on to the jumps as well, I think we ought to all, you know, thoughts and prayers are very much with Josh Moore and his family at the moment. You know, it's great to do these podcasts and stuff like that, but there's real life and death happening at the moment, and you know, we really do pray that Josh comes through his current troubles and is fitting well and recovers very quickly, because it's a horrendous time for them. So on with the 150, obviously very competitive race, Dan. You know, a number of horses have been laid out for this. I wonder whether Paul Nicholls has really had this as the primary target for Napper's Hill, but he's a kind of horse that will absolutely love the good ground. I think they tried him over 2.5 in that EBF final, and he got stuck in the mud. He was all around the inside. He just didn't enjoy the whole experience. He had a nice little confidence booster subsequently last week. Comes here in good heart. The stable have won this with the top weight before, and I think Napa's Hill looks the class horse to me. I still don't think he's badly handicapped off 134, to be honest. I think 2 miles on good ground, he's at optimum conditions. And I would just take a little bit of a chance, win and place as well with Dibble Decker, who he's quite a strange horse, really. He doesn't seem to be going very quickly in any of his races, but he does sort of gallop on, and he's very difficult to get past, as he proved at Taunton last time. He's very well suited by a right-handed track on good ground as well. Been one of the stories of the season, really. Stan Shepherd and his association with Tom Lacey, they've enjoyed a marvellous time of it. Betfair hurdles, and obviously Stan's won a Welsh National, and it's been an incredible year for him, a real breakthrough season for the Ginger Prince. And I could see Dibble Decker at 10.0, 11.0 running really well as well.
Yeah, and on Nappers Hill, in terms of the prices, currently around the 4.0 market, what price would it be for you to say it's too short then on that end? Because I agree with a lot of what you said on the points.
I don't think I'd want any less than it is at the moment, to be honest. I'm not saying it's the bet of the century either at 4.0, but you might get a little bit better. 1 or 2 people might take a view that it's got too much weight, or he's had a long season, etc. So he might inch out a little bit in the market, hopefully.
Yeah, and Charlie said I think he liked Boom Bon in this race in the 150 there. We'll touch on the 225 at Sandown, Sam, and that's the Oaksey Chase over 2 miles, 6.5. Mr. Fisher's your current 2.37, St. Calvados is 3.0, Earn River 5.5, and Nutswell 7.5. So 4-runner field again here, pretty small field. Who do you like in this one? It's obviously between the top 3 in the market potentially.
Well, yeah, it's a nasty little race. I mean, I thought Earn River would run really well at Aintree, and unfortunately he was an early casualty. Mr. Fisher was worried out of this race last year by Froden, but I don't think there was a lot of disgrace in that, to be honest. I mean, Froden was a really odd horse up till the last 2 or 3 runs to ever sort of overhaul or get past, especially in a small field. And don't forget, he went on and beat Galvin at Down Royal, and that looked pretty tasty form. So yeah, I think this is a fair opportunity really for Mr. Fisher. He goes well right-handed. He wants good ground. I think this is the upper limit of his stamina. 2 miles 6 round here, but I don't think they'll be going hell for leather here. I can't see St. Calvados making the run in and going a million. Nutswell, is he quite good enough? I think Mr. Fisher should outclass these, and he'd be my pick here.
Yeah, I couldn't really decide between the top 3. A lot of the pros and cons, so happy to leave this race. But I'm happy to listen to the case for St. Calvados here, Charlie, for you.
It was a case in that he's been a cliff horse for me. I mean, we all thought when he went to Paul Nicholls it was going to have a huge effect. I mean, I suppose if you're Harry Whittington looking at it with the couple of horses that went there, you're probably smiling because not really much has changed at all. And it just came down to they all ran at Aintree, the runners in this race. Mr. Fisher, I don't know, he's a horse I really struggle to get an angle on. I hear what Sam's saying, Sandown right-handed, etc. But I just thought if ever St. Calvados was going to have his day, as we'd said about Paul Nicholls targeted in this meeting, that really was my case. And he's a horse with enough ability to win a race like this, and maybe the small field, 2 miles 6 round Sandown at a track that Paul Nicholls does so well at is where I came down that he might just get his day in the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. So difference of opinion there, and difference of opinion in this next race, which to be honest is the race of the weekend for me. I think I do love these 2 mile chases. Take a look at the betting. Grenate's currently the 2.5 favourite. Nuba Negra is 2.5. Sorry, joint favourites there at the top. Skull Royal 4.5, and Rouge Vif is a big price at 21.0. Charlie, for you, who do you what side did you come down on in this race?
Nube Negra are very, very strong on him, if I'm being completely honest. As in, he was very, very good at Cheltenham on his first start back. I know the Skeltons really were fancying him for a Tilt the Champion chase. He probably should have never ran the Tingle Creek, slow ground, Sandown. They say he's best fresh. And I think the fact that he ended up not running at Cheltenham, missed Aintree, he's come here. Yeah, I'm really, really positive about him. And I love it when Dan selects something and makes a plan to go at it. And like I say, I think this could be the horse's day to get a deserved Grade 1 triumph, and yeah, he's probably one of my best bets of the whole day on Saturday. I'm really keen on Nube Negra.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement on Nuba Negra, and I think it was a blessing in disguise the rain came, to be honest with you, on that Wednesday, so he can target this race because obviously he goes well fresh. So it's the Nuba Negra show here, Sam. I'm sure you're in full agreement with us.
Well, it was a bit of a coin toss for me, I've got to be honest, because I can really see the case for Nuba Negra. I think good spring ground, should be a decent pace for him as well. I don't see any negatives really. He's got a fair bit of form round, right-handed tracks, and goes pretty well this time of year. And obviously he'll bounce off the ground. So there's not a lot not to like about his chance, and the fact that he's so fresh and well. And I've, like Charlie, got a lot of time for Dan Skelton when he targets races like this. Paul Nicholls has also targeted this race with Grenadine, who was tremendously impressive, not only in the Tingle Creek, but also in this race last year when he thumped Altior. And sort of announced himself on the major stage, really. I think he's fresh and well. Obviously, Bryony's not riding because she's injured and sidelined, but Harry Cobden, excellent deputy there. And I just think the fact that he's only had 4 runs this year, I think he'll find ground and track obviously well suitable. And I think I'll take him to beat Skelton, so that I'm going to take the Master to beat the Apprentice again.
Yeah, it should be a fascinating race, and I think it is probably a match between the top 2 in the betting there on that front. We'll move on to the final race at 3:32 at Sandown. Take a look at the betting. It's Enrillo. It's currently the 4.5 favourite. Kitty's Life 5.0. Win My Wings Scottish National winner 6.5. Phlegmatics 9.0. Musical Slade 10.0. We'll go bigger the rest if they do come up. Yeah, we'll go to you on this one, Charlie. What side did you come down here? It's a tricky race to kind of figure out because you have a lot of form coming from the one race in the Scottish National. Yeah,
I mean, look, and it's sort of dominated. Well, one by last year's contenders, and 2 by the Welsh wizard Christian Williams, who I mean seems to be the outstanding trainer of staying handicap chasers. I mean, it just seems whenever he sets his sights on one of these contests, it's almost like a formality. And I mean, look, Win My Wings. It took. I mean, I from a visual point of view, I've not seen many top class handicap chasers being absolutely taken apart the way he did. Rob James on board that day. I mean, I've never seen a horse traveling so strong, and I almost thought he was over racing, and then to see it out like she did was mightily impressive. She's obviously gone up a stack in the weights for that, and therefore my feeling was that Kitty's Light, I just feel like this has been the plan for Kitty's Light. I think the fact that he got hampered at a crucial moment actually saved him finishing any closer to the filly. Maybe wasn't subjected to quite as hard a race as he might have been. And we've got the addition of cheek pieces as well for the first time, which might just help Jack Tudor get him to travel a little bit earlier. If he's got a fault, Kitty's Light, it's that he can find himself behind the bridle at an early stage and get a bit further back in his races than you'd like. Sandown will also help with that, with the stiff finishing track. And if the cheek pieces have the desired effect, Christian's targeted this race, and that's good enough for me, in all honesty.
Yeah, Sam, for you, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I think it's an intriguing race, Dan, to be honest. So obviously, as Charlie says, you've got the strands of last year's form with Enrillo, Kitty's Light, Potterman, and you've got Win My Wings. And just to echo what Charlie says, the most astonishing performance I've ever seen in a staying handicap chase. She looked like she jumped in at the bottom of the straight, and obviously she's gone up a stone for that. The one proviso with her is that she was obviously training for the Scottish National. You don't go 4 miles around air at a very good clip and not have a hard race. So both her and Kitty's Light have got to overcome that. She's also 1 from 7 right-handed. Now, she has managed to win at Exeter, but that was off like 1-2-9 in a little handicap, and she just got up on the line there. So she might not be quite as effective at Sandown. The fences come in quite rapid succession as well down the back, as we all know, those railway fences. So there are just a couple of little question marks that she's got to answer. But if she's in anywhere near that form as she was at Ayr, I mean, she's going to be really difficult to resist here. However, I'm going to take a chance with her stablemate as well, Kitty's Light. I think the cheek pieces that Christian cleverly put on Cap de Nord before he won at Kempton, a nice handicap. He's doing exactly the same here, just to sharpen him up. And probably, as Charlie says, just keep Jack Tudor a little bit closer to the front runners, in closer proximity. Last year, he just got a little bit too far back, but finished with a tremendous rattle if you watch the race back. And it was a really strong performance. He was desperately unlucky not to get it because he obviously got hampered by Enrillo, and that handed the race to Potterman. But I think if he's in anywhere near that level of form, I think he'll be a major player on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I kind of like that angle, to be honest with you. Again, I want one a bit of a price. I've gone for the 4th in the Scottish Grand National, in Fiddocks at about 21.0. I do accept, like, I don't know if it was quite Scottish National was quite the target, that they might have been kind of almost looking at the Sandown Cup, given the fact, or Sandown Gold Cup, given the fact that it went off at 66-1. So I think there's a bit of a squeak of value there compared to maybe the other Kitty's Light and Win My Wings from that race. So if you want one of a price, that'd be the one I'd be kind of going for. Any thoughts on that selection, Sam? Any interest? Or?
Yeah, he loved the good ground, wasn't he? And he's a spring horse.
Yeah.
And yeah, he'll bounce off a decent surface, which is what he needs for ducks.
And it's proper good ground here, isn't it? And I think the rumours are good to firm potentially in places on the day, perhaps.
It'll be a good covering of grass, but they just haven't had the rain, have they?
No, yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to the couple of flat races on the ITV card. We'll go to 205 at Haydock, and we'll go to you, Sam, on this first. As we take a look at the betting here, it's Al Rahib at 5.5, Boardman at 6.5, Udalali at 8.0, and 9.0 and Big at the rest. Any interest or bet on this race, Sam?
Yeah, I like Boardman here. I mean, I know he's 8 years of age, and 6 years of age. He's got to sort of concede one or two runs and years to some younger horses, but I thought he ran tremendously well from what looked a poor draw at Redcar. The only slight proviso is that he wouldn't mind a bit of juice in the ground, so I'm hoping that Haydock have either watered well or they've still got some residual juice in the ground, because he's at his best when he can get a toe in. But he's already won round here. I think a lot of the Tim Easterby horses are stepping forward for their first run. He's a course and distance winner, and I think he's feasibly handicapped. Hopefully he'll run well here, and then something like York in a few weeks' time might be the order of the day for him. But I'm going to back him win and place, I think, in this race.
Yeah, Charlie, you have a small fancy in Silver Samurai.
Yeah, just a small fancy, Dan. I mean, I just like the fact that he's had a run. He was narrowly denied at Kempton in March. He's drawn one, which I think is favourable enough round Haydock over 7 furlongs. Sam would know more than me. Marco Botti, they're going okay. And like I say, I just think at this time of year, I think backing horses with a run is profitable. And like I say, Silver Samurai's done that. He's got a nice draw. He can be ridden close to the pace as well. And so I came down with him. But I mean, Boardsman, I can see the angle for. I was just slightly worried about the Easterby form. But as Sam says, they do seem to be improving for a run. So that's a positive for him.
Brilliant. We'll move on to the final race in the ITV card on the flat side of things. It's 245 at Leicester, and take a look at the betting. It's just Sam with a pick in this one here. No bet for myself and Charlie. So Aratus is currently, I'll get prices up for you in a moment there, Sam. They haven't come through yet on the side here for you. Who you kind of happy pair for you?
Well, yes, I can see positives and negatives for all four of them, to be honest. And it looks like it's going to be a tactical affair. Taking on an Appleby and Buick horse is a dangerous task, I think, certainly at this stage of the year. So Path of Thunder has his first run back since stepping off the plane from Maidan. He had a nice time out there, good couple of months in the Middle East, and I'm sure he enjoyed it immensely. So he might be difficult to beat here, but I'll take a small chance with Happy Power. I thought it was a touch unfortunate at Wolverhampton in the Wolverhampton Stakes. The winner just got first run on him that day and was well backed, and he stayed on quite nicely. I think stepping back to 7 on the grass with that run under his belt, champion all-weather rider David Probert, with plenty of confidence at the moment. And just the fact that he's had that recent run under his belt, I'll just take him to beat Aratus, who I think is a really nice horse going forward. But I just wonder whether Connections might be looking at a Victoria Cup or Royal Ascot a little bit further down the line for him.
Absolutely. So we have a lot covered there. So insights.matchbook.com. If you have missed any of the selections, they'll be up a couple hours post-recording. We're there. We're moving on to Saturday best lays. And I think I'm in agreement with you here, Charlie. We'll let you lead the way on the lay.
Yeah, Grenadine for me, 100%. I mean, when you guys earlier were echoing Paul Nicholls, I think Grenadine is an example of why he's been champion trainer so long. You know, when we've seen horses that have improved out of these handicap ranks to become genuine Grade 1 performers. But I just think you're so strong on Nube Negra. I just think that Grenadine at the prices, I'd be very, very keen to take him on.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I wasn't a big fan of the Leopardstown run as well. Sam, for you, did you find the best lay in the half an hour?
Well,
or did we wind you up enough?
I'll go Win My Wings place. In the hope that she doesn't quite act around Sandown as well as she did around the galloping configuration of Air.
Yeah, I was actually very close to putting that in the document earlier, and I just said she's going to have to, if she bolts in, you'll seem like an absolute clown. But I'm glad you've done that for me.
It won't be the first time, it won't be the last.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to go in with Charlie, and then best bet, Charlie, for you on the card on Saturday.
Well, because of my layers Grenadine, my best bet is Nube Negra. Like you said, I think the soft ground coming at Cheltenham was the biggest blessing ever, because he wouldn't have beaten Ergamine anyway. And the fact that now he can have this Grade 1 target, it's music to my ears. And like I say, with the ground, the track is fine, fresh horse, no run since December. Nube Negra is a strong best bet for me on Saturday.
Yeah, and Adele's gone for that before last week, and the best bets and best lay, just take them on each other and go either 2-0 or 0-2, and you get the job done. Sam, your best bet on the card on Saturday?
Well, Charlie's pushed all his chips in there. Yeah, and knowing how close he is to Dan and Harry Skelton as well, that's put the wind up me. I'll go to Haydock, I think, for the 205. Calmer waters. Hopefully that handicap can be a nice point of call, and Boardman win and place for me in the 205.
Yeah, in terms of most likely winner, myself, I love Nube Negra as well, but I did want one as a price. As I said, I've got to try and impress people on my one in every 5 or 6 podcasts. So I'm going to go for Fiddux at about 20.0 in the win and place market to really hit that home run there, to follow the Ring of Bar on the Friday in a nice little matchbook double. We're done. As I said, the £30 welcome offer is available. Money back is a free bet. Do check out matchbook.com. All the selections from the guys will be on insights.matchbook.com. And if you are liking the content, do give us a thumbs up on YouTube. We'd really appreciate it, and we appreciate all the interactions on social media. Charlie, Sam, thanks a million for coming on the podcast.
Cheers, Dan. And Charlie, have you sold the 2 horses yet?
Tomorrow, Sam. Tomorrow, Rock House is the big one. I think he's a nice prospect for the future. And Dan, boys, thanks for letting me having me on. And I promise, if we do it again, I'll be much better prepared with a better setup. It's very rustic, to say the least. So sorry about that.
No, you came through, Brian Large, for most for Charlie, and we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Great insight, as always. So do check out, as I mentioned, the YouTube channel, insights.matchbook.com. Tom will be back with a full Punchestown preview there. Stay tuned. It's going to be on Monday afternoon. But for now, for all of us on the Team Matchbook team, take care and have a great weekend.